I would like to welcome you all from the bottom of my heart to my channel Grandpa True Stories. This story is only for your entertainment. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more stories. So, sit back and let's start. You ever have someone leave your life without a single word? No goodbye, no reason, just silence? That's how it happened for me. One day she was there, smiling like she always did, and the next, it was like she vanished into thin air. At first, I thought maybe she needed space. We all do sometimes. But as the hours turned into days, and the days into weeks, that silence began to speak louder than any words could. I remember sitting by the window that evening, the same one where we used to drink coffee together, and realizing her favorite mug was gone. It sounds small, I know, but it hit me like a wave. She didn't just leave the house. She left us. There wasn't a fight. No harsh words. Just a quiet ending to something I thought was unbreakable. I replayed every moment in my head, searching for signs. Was she unhappy? Did I miss something? It's strange how the heart keeps waiting for footsteps that never return. I used to wake up hoping to see her car in the driveway again, but deep down I knew this wasn't an accident. She left with intention, and for a long time I couldn't understand why. But here's the thing. Sometimes silence hides the answers we aren't ready to face. And it took me months to realize her goodbye wasn't about me at all. So before I tell you what really happened, let me take you back to when things still felt right, and I had no idea what was coming. Before everything changed, life felt beautifully ordinary. We had our small routines, morning walks, late night talks, and those quiet dinners where words weren't needed because comfort spoke louder than conversation. She had this gentle laugh that could soften even my hardest days. I used to believe that kind of peace meant permanence, that when things felt right, they would stay right. But I guess that's the thing about peace. It's fragile when unspoken feelings linger beneath it. I remember one evening in particular, we were watching the sunset from our porch. She leaned on my shoulder, silent for a long time. I thought she was simply lost in the colors of the sky. Now I wonder if she was saying her goodbye in her heart even then. Looking back, the signs were there, small changes that only make sense once the pieces fall apart. The late returns from work, the quiet sighs when she thought I wasn't listening, the way her laughter felt a little more distant every day. But I brushed it all off. I told myself we were just tired, that love sometimes feels quieter after the years pass. I didn't realize that quiet can also mean drifting. Still, in those moments, I was happy. Or at least I believed I was. And maybe that's why her leaving felt like a lightning bolt from a clear sky. Because I never imagined that silence could carry the weight of an ending. That calm before the storm. It wasn't peace after all. It was the pause before everything I knew unraveled. It happened on an ordinary Tuesday, the kind of day that starts quietly and ends up changing everything. I wasn't looking for answers. I was just trying to find my phone charger. But sometimes life has a way of revealing what you're not ready to see. I opened her laptop to send myself a file, and that's when I found the messages. They weren't loud or obvious. No confessions, no grand betrayal. Just words that felt too close, too familiar, too intimate to be shared with anyone but me. My hands went cold. My heart raced. It wasn't about what was said, and it was about what it meant. Every "I miss you" and "you understand me better than anyone" felt like a quiet fracture in the foundation of our life together. I sat there for a long time, staring at the screen, trying to make sense of it. I told myself maybe it was harmless, that maybe people just talk when they feel lost. But deep down I knew, trust isn't broken by one big thing. It's worn down by 1,000 tiny cracks you never see forming. When she walked in that night, her smile didn't reach her eyes. I wanted to ask, to shout, to cry, but all I could do was whisper, "Why?" She froze, realizing I knew. And in that silence, I saw everything, the guilt, the regret, and the distance that had already taken her away from me long before she physically left. That was the moment I understood. Sometimes betrayal doesn't announce itself. It just quietly changes the way love feels. That night felt longer than any I'd ever lived. The air in the room was heavy, almost like it knew what was about to happen. She sat across from me, her hands trembling just slightly, her eyes avoiding mine. For a while, we didn't speak. The silence said more than words ever could. Finally, I asked her, gently, almost afraid of the answer. Was it true? Were those messages real? She didn't deny it. She just looked down, tears welling up, and whispered, "I didn't mean to hurt you." Those words broke me more than the truth itself. Because deep down I realized this wasn't about one mistake. It was about everything that led us here. The distance, the unspoken feelings, the quiet drift that neither of us stopped. I wanted to be angry, to demand answers, but all I felt was sadness, a deep, aching kind that seeps into your bones. She tried to explain, saying she was confused, that she needed someone to talk to. But to me, all I heard was that she needed someone else when I was right there. As tears filled my eyes, I said something I'll never forget. "You didn't just lose me tonight. You lost the version of me that trusted you completely." She broke down then, reaching for my hand, but I couldn't move. It wasn't pride or punishment, it was realization. Sometimes love isn't enough to repair what's been silently broken. That night, we both understood something we hadn't wanted to face. Even the quietest betrayals echo the loudest in the heart. The days after that confrontation were heavier than I ever imagined. She wasn't gone physically, but the connection we once had felt like it had slipped through my fingers. Every shared laugh, every familiar gesture suddenly carried a shadow of what had been lost. I realized that healing wasn't about instant closure. It was about creating space for both of us to breathe and understand the aftermath. I started spending time alone, walking through familiar streets where memories of us lingered. Each step reminded me of conversations, plans, and moments of trust. It hurt, but I learned to let the pain exist without letting it consume me. Writing down my thoughts helped too, not to blame, not to judge, but to acknowledge my feelings, to accept that I couldn't control her choices, only my response. Slowly, I began to see the power of boundaries. I limited our contact, not out of spite, but to protect my heart. Every unanswered message, every silence felt like a small reclaiming of my peace. I learned to value my own presence, my own voice, and my own healing. The hardest part was understanding that letting go doesn't always mean forgetting. It means making peace with what happened, recognizing the lessons, and giving yourself permission to move forward without resentment. Some nights I still felt a pang of longing, but I also felt a growing strength. The quiet realization that walking away slowly doesn't erase love, but it preserves dignity, respect, and the hope of finding a connection that doesn't break silently. As time passed, I began to reflect deeply on everything that had unfolded. At first, I only saw the surface, her leaving, the silence, the confusion. But with distance came clarity. I realized that people sometimes leave not because of you, but because of their own struggles, fears, or journeys they need to take alone. I revisited our conversations, not to find faults, but to understand patterns and moments I had overlooked. It became clear that communication, honesty, and personal growth weren't just important. They were essential for a healthy connection. I saw where I might have given too much without asking for reciprocity, where I had ignored small signs, and where I had assumed explanations instead of seeking understanding. This reflection wasn't about blaming her or myself. It was about recognizing the truth of the situation, a mix of choices, timing, and unmet needs. I accepted that some things were never meant to stay, and that letting go was an act of self-respect rather than defeat. Through journaling and quiet introspection, I began to reframe the experience. What once felt like abandonment now carried lessons about boundaries, emotional resilience, and self-awareness. I learned that understanding doesn't always mean closure immediately, but it does allow your heart to process, learn, and eventually heal. In this quiet reflection, I finally started to release the lingering anger and confusion. I didn't just understand her reasons. I understood my own needs and the value of preserving my emotional well-being. I realized something crucial. Walking away isn't just about leaving someone behind. It's about moving toward the best version of yourself. Eventually, after days of reflection, I reached a place of acceptance. The initial hurt and confusion had softened into understanding, and my heart began to feel lighter. I realized that sometimes people leave for reasons that have nothing to do with you, and that holding on to anger or regret only prolongs your own pain. Acceptance didn't mean I approved of what happened, or that the emotions disappeared overnight. Instead, it meant acknowledging reality, embracing my own feelings, and allowing myself to heal without resentment. I reminded myself that my self-worth wasn't defined by someone else's actions, and that moving forward was an act of courage, not weakness. I started focusing on myself, nurturing my passions, reconnecting with friends and family, and investing in my emotional growth. The silence that once haunted me transformed into a space for clarity and self-discovery. I recognized the strength it took to let go and the peace that comes from setting boundaries and prioritizing my own well-being. Most importantly, I forgave, not for her, but for me. I forgave the confusion, the sadness, and even the moments I wished I could change. With forgiveness came freedom, and with freedom came the ability to embrace new possibilities and relationships that aligned with honesty, respect, and mutual care. Looking back, I now see that her departure was painful, yes, but necessary. It taught me lessons about love, trust, and self-respect that I could never have learned otherwise. So, if you've ever felt abandoned or betrayed, remember this: walking away isn't the end. It's the beginning of your journey to peace, understanding, and a stronger, wiser heart. Call to action. Have you ever had someone leave without explanation? How did you cope and find your peace? Share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear your experiences.